Hello, welcome back to Health Score. Today we are in psychological health and we're talking about connecting with others or social isolation. In the previous lecture, we discussed loneliness. Loneliness is different from social isolation. Loneliness is the feeling of being lonely, it's subjective. And it really doesn't matter about how many social connections one has. Someone could be very popular, have a lot of Facebook friends, but still feel lonely. Social isolation and social connectedness are different. They're objective measures. They can be assessed by asking people how regularly they are able to communicate with friends and family and have someone who they can share their concerns about they can share their life concerns with, someone they can trust and routinely speak to on a regular basis. There's evidence that along with loneliness, social isolation creates a significant increased risk of mortality. The same mechanism that affects health for loneliness affects health for people who are socially isolated. And that is two mechanisms. One is an indirect mechanism where people who are socially isolated are more likely to use tobacco, are more likely to be inactive, and are more likely to have poor sleep. There's also a physiologic direct pathway whereby social isolation can lead to increased health risks. This is by increased blood pressure, increased C reactive protein, which is a marker of inflammation, increased cholesterol, which is a risk factor for cardiovascular disease, and poor immune function or our ability to fight infections. A lot of the same recommendations I shared with you for loneliness apply to social isolation. If you take the medical approach or the clinical, if you go where the evidence is in clinical trials, the most effective way of treating social isolation is addressing the beliefs of people who remain socially isolated. So this is called cognitive behavioral therapy. The theory is that people who remain isolated actually do so because not because they don't have opportunities to connect with others, but or not because they have lack the skills to connect with others, but because they have beliefs about interacting with others that lead them to devalue the experience. And with a trained therapist, you can challenge those beliefs, see if they're accurate or distortions. And usually this leads to improved social connectedness. You can find a therapist who does cognitive behavioral therapy through your health's insurance website. You can also find reviews of therapists that have been seen by my patients recently. All of these have been done through video visits. So, though the therapists are based in San Francisco, you can see them no matter where you're living currently. Now, the other ways of improving social isolation are more pragmatic. There's less evidence in the literature for them, but I personally find them helpful, so I'm sharing them with you. During shelter in place, there's a lot of limitation on the time we can spend in person with each other. Many of my patients who report good social connection have maintained the regular contacts they have with friends and family, but doing so online now. There are also social groups you can join where you share a common hobby or interests, like Facebook groups. And finally, here are some dating apps which can be a good way of finding romantic connection. And they can lead to dates that are done by video or by phone. That's becoming very popular right now. In summary, we've talked about the health risks of social isolation and the benefits of being socially connected. I described two ways of improving or addressing social isolation and improving social connection. One is cognitive behavioral therapy in the hands of a licensed therapist, and the other are these online applications which allow people to meet and have regular contact without necessarily being face to face and risking um, spreading COVID. So I hope these recommendations help. I hope that you're able to work on improving your sense of connectedness. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.